Good evening. We are now in the next video, and in the previous video we made a door which I now glued into place. It is glued into place. It's 2 layers of cardboard. There is some relief, as you can see. You can see there's some relief, and I put some glue to make more relief instead of gluing cardboard, which will be more visible once we have painted it. And this is more or less okay, and when it will be painted it will look much better. And I have started now to make here at the top the flooring structure which is sticking through the wall, and it supports, of course, the top part of the building, these bulkheads, or I don't know how it's called in English. And every single one is a wooden one, as you can see. They are made of wood and they have a little profile. I don't know if you can see it. I will have to put it closer than even. You can see every single bulk has a profile. Now, in order to make these, I use pine wood. You can use any wood which is available, which has more or less this size. I will show you. It has this size. This is small, as you can see, my fingers. And you have to make sure that you leave it long to make in order to make the profile. You leave it long, because if you cut it, it will be very hard to work with. And in order to make these are each single one, you have to make sure they are square. That's the first thing. If they're not square, they won't be any good for you. And I use a little file, a metal file, to correct it if it's not square. And it's more or less okay. As you can see yourself, it is okay. And each one is 8 millimeters long. So I start to trace a line at 8 millimeters. And the profile is only like 3 millimeters long, which I also mark now. And the 8 millimeters have to be very exact. We want it to be all more or less looking the same length. Otherwise it won't be nice looking if one is 1 millimeter longer and one is shorter. It wouldn't look nice. They have to be more or less the same. Like that you get a better result. And then the next thing is we start, before we cut it off, before we cut off the mark, I will make the profile first, because as it is long it will be much easier to handle. Now I mark the 3 millimeters, as you can see, and the 8 millimeters here to cut off. And the 3 millimeters, in order to make the profile, we take a chisel of 2 millimeters wide, a sharp one, and vertically 90 degrees perpendicularly you make an initial cut. Not too hard, very gently. Then we remove the material. I can't show you on the camera, but I think you can see it from here, from there. Then first you do like that. Then you remove the material holding the chisel 45 degrees, and you remove gently the material till you get like a kind of guideline. This is a kind of guideline which will help now to file the profile. The rest won't be done with a chisel, but as you can hear, I will file it. Then I take a little metal file, and there's a flat side and a rough side, and I take the flat side and I hold it against here. Hold it like that. Our guideline or channel which we just made will now help so that the file won't be there and where we don't want it to be. And we do it very gently, and we make sure that we work as flat as possible. No pressure. Let the file do the work. Don't put any pressure on the file. The file, if it's a good one, will remove the material itself, and it's not necessary to work like some kind of vandal or some kind of barbarian. Just work very gently, moving back and forward. This is modelism. You should be careful. Then you look if it's okay, and it looks okay to me. It looks okay. A little bit deeper. It should be like 1 millimeter deep. And then you get this result. Now we can make it round at the end, at one side, which I'm going to do now. No pressure, once again, very gently, softly, because the pine wood is not as hard as you would think. If you want, it would be wise if you use a little harder wood, but it's not a must. It can be done with pine if you don't put any pressure on the material. And well, you would think it's soft and it is easier to work with, but no, a hardwood would be much better choice, like beech or something similar. Beechwood or willow. Willow is a good choice. Willow. Poplar is too soft. Oak would do, but you have to do with the material you have. And it happened to be that I had this in stock. I found it. I always save up little parts which I think I can use for later. And I was lucky to find this piece, which is exactly the size I was looking for. Now, once the profile is filed, you can see we have the profile now. Now with a piece of sandpaper on a coffee stir stick, this is a coffee stir stick with some sandpaper glued on top on it, I make it a little bit round, but very, 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 very softly, because before you know, you remove too much material and it would look very ugly. And once that is done, we can cut it off. We rounded it, and your profile is done. Now we can cut it off and glue it into place. In order to cut it off, you should use a little clamp. A Chinese one will do for this kind of work. This is a Chinese one. Sometimes the Chinese make good things too. But the chisel, for example, is Swiss. I wouldn't use a Chinese chisel. And then I use a little metal saw. And I use enough light. And I very gently, like the file, very gently we saw into the wood. Don't put any pressure into it, because if you would put pressure on the saw, it will cause that it will splinter the wood at the back. Here at the back it will splinter. So what we do is we concentrate on doing it very perpendicularly, and we concentrate that we are not putting any pressure on it. It should find its own way. But Still, as you can see, my finger is here as a leading finger. Still, it has to be perpendicularly, but gently. No pressure that way, just back and forward. Oh, and by the way, I made a little channel here in this piece of scrap, which will help me to do the cutting. So I make that our cut or is aligned with the channel which I made already with the saw. And like that, the saw will go in the channel and it will help me to have a clean end when I'm cutting. Especially at the end and at the beginning as well, you should be very careful, because then the risk of splintering is the most. We are now at the end, and now look, first thing I do is I am going to slow down, because now the risk is very big. It would be wise to cut the final part with, for example, a knife, but I took the risk and it is okay. It didn't splinter. Now with my self-made file from sandpaper, I remove a little bit of roughness which is left from the sawing at the end, and it's done. Now with a toothpick and some white glue, PVA glue, wood glue, we will glue it into place. So I put my house in position, and then at the end grain wood of the little profile of the bulkhead, I put some glue, because that end grain absorbs quite a lot of glue. It goes into the wood. And then a thin coat of glue on the top of our bulkhead, and then a little bit as well where it has to be glued, but not too much, because all the glue which is too much will be anyways squeezed out. So it has no sense to apply lots of glue. It will only make it harder for you, because then you will have to remove the glue, and it will cause a mess. Okay, and then I'm going to look for, and actually I can't see it now where I left it. Here you are. This device to remove splinters, for example. It helps me to hold it. Then, like that, I have it in my hand. I can glue it into place, which I'm going to show you. Maybe you can see it. I hope so. And then we can, let me see if you can see it. Yes, you can see it. Then we put it into place here. Choop, like that. And then we don't need this little gadget anymore. We can just press it firmly into place, and we make sure it's on the right spot, of course. And as I'm pressing, some glue is squeezed out, which I simply remove with a toothpick. I have to remove it with a toothpick, because once it's dry, you won't be able to remove it anymore, only with a knife and with brutal force, but that's not what you want when you have a model. Try to remove the glue now and not later. Now it's easy to remove. And we have our bulkhead glued into place, and we leave it overnight to dry. And so I will have to finish this side of the house with the bulkheads or flooring coming through the wall, the floor structure. There's one still here in the corner which I have to do here. And then this side is ready. And then we can go to the other side of the house and do exactly the same here. These bolts have to be glued here as well. And once we have done that, there's only one thing which is still left to be done, and that's we have to make a little bit of paved road here in front of the house and here at the side for the firewood, and in front of the house just because the people who come here, they want to stand not in the mud. And once we have done that, the road and the road here, only till here, no road here. Here will be garden, and we will have to make 3 supports here for the roof because it has an overhang, and normally you make supports there. And this overhang is meant to keep the firewood dry when it's drying outside. Once we have done that, made the supports in that road, there's only one thing which is left for us, and that is to make a watermill. I've been thinking that I will make a watermill here with a channel, because this is with the bridge. The bridge will be here, and with the bridge there's water here streaming, so it's would be nice. This is typical, looks like a house which would be typical for a watermill. It looks very nice, this kind of house. Once we made the watermill with a leading channel out of wood, then we can paint the whole assembly. And still I would like to ask you people on the YouTube if there is somebody who can help me with advice on how to paint this house, because I never did this before. Please help me with your advices how to paint it and make it look like real. The weathering techniques and dry brushing and the washings, like you call it. If anybody can help me, I would be very grateful. Thanks for watching, and till the next video.